Okay, very excited today to be speaking with Mr. Paul Stark of the Minnesota Citizens Concerned for Life group. He'll be with us next week here in the Rochester area. We're really excited to host him next week, Thursday, at the church. And his organization he represents is Minnesota Citizens Concerned for Life. They do a fantastic newsletter. It's usually 8 to 10 pages long. It's full color. And we'll post all the links in the description below this video, but you can reach him at mccl.org. Their issues are life before birth, abortion, pro-life, euthanasia, assisted suicide, stem cell research, and human cloning. Very important issue to be speaking about in Rochester, where we know a lot of these activities are going on. And thank you, Mr. Stark. Can you please tell us what you might be speaking to us about next week?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on your program again, Wes. So next Thursday, I believe, June 10th, I'll be down in the Rochester area and I'll speak about the issue of abortion. And I'll talk about why abortion is such a foundational issue. It has to do with this question of who counts as one of us, who counts as someone who has human rights and deserves respect and protection. Do all human beings count, or are there some humans who can be excluded from that protection and killed through abortion? It's so foundational. So we're going to talk about the issue of abortion. I'll make the case for the pro-life view, and I'll respond to some of the common arguments in favor of abortion. And we'll talk about what's going on with the issue, how many abortions take place, and so forth, the gravity of what's going on. And then we'll also talk about how we can get involved in some practical things that we can do to help make a difference and protect unborn children and support their mothers and save lives. So that's what we're going to sort of cover next Thursday.
So essential, in the current newsletter and in all the newsletters, really, they move toward action. So they always include your elected officials. So you know exactly, you have the email address, the telephone number to call, you have their physical address, so you can contact your representatives and senators. They're all about action and speaking out for those who have no voice, those who have apparently no human rights, because after all, Paul, we're at the height of state-funded abortions in Minnesota are at an all-time high.
Right. Yeah, more than 45, is it 44 or 4,500 a year taxpayer-funded abortions in the state of Minnesota, which is horrible. Of course, it's an injustice to the unborn children who are killed with government money. The same government that's supposed to protect them is funding their deaths. But it's also something that taxpayers should not be forced to be a part of. So that's an ongoing battle to try and finally bring an end to what we have in Minnesota as far as taxpayer-funded abortion.
Mm-hmm. Now, how about the new drugs that the Biden administration, taking it away from the local into the state and national, what about Biden's new plan to fund the day after pills and whatnot, or the stay-at-home abortions that can be purchased through the mail, and what's the issue there with Biden?
This is very concerning. So the FDA has historically had a policy where these chemical abortion drugs have to be dispensed in person at an actual medical facility for safety reasons. The Biden administration has suspended that rule so that abortionists can now send abortion drugs through the mail to women who aren't getting that in-person medical examination beforehand, which is important for safety reasons. So it's not good this change isn't good for women, but it's also, of course, not good for unborn children, because this is just expanding abortion and making it more and more widespread. So it's just a bad deal for unborn children and their mothers, this expansion of abortion through these mail order abortions.
It's truly ironic that the culture of death portends to be concerned about human rights, or they'll step up for the rights of all kinds of plants and trees and bacteria and fish and birds. And the irony of it's rather like a vegetarian I remember in college who would wear leather jackets and Birkenstock shoes. It's kind of like you can't have it both ways. If you want to go full tilt boogie toward one ideology, you should be consistent with it. But uh, it, what could be the fundamental reason that they can't respect the life of an unborn child? Can we try to get inside that mindset? What would be
Yeah,
the moral compass there?
I think it's complicated, and there's probably a lot of factors.
Yeah.
There's definitely um, a valuing of autonomy, this idea of bodily autonomy, especially. But of course, our bodily autonomy doesn't mean that we have the right to attack the body of someone else, which is what happens in the case of abortion. So this autonomy, choice, these are things that are valued a lot by those who favor abortion. But it is a complicated issue.
Yeah. And on the euthanasia front, I remember meeting a Democrat who actually said, speaking of the numbers of deaths that were occurring in nursing homes in Minnesota during this time of a pandemic, 78% were in nursing homes. And he actually said, and he was serious, I thought it was a dark joke at the time for a moment, but he was serious. He said, I know it sounds terrible, but think of the money we'll save. So it's a slippery slope toward euthanasia and a death pill. Once we start accepting that culture of death, that there's an easy way out of the expense and inconvenience of
Yeah.
having autonomies. Yeah.
Once
Well,
we once we accept that idea that there could be such a thing as a human life that's not worth living, or that some lives are less valuable than others, then it is a slippery slope. That we do see the elderly and the disabled have their lives devalued, and with this push toward euthanasia and assisted suicide, just as unborn lives are devalued in the womb. So it's all connected, and it's all yeah.
Yeah, it's all connected, and I'm thinking of an international connection where people are actually starting to think of the notion that it's virtually acceptable to do medical tourism where you fly to a third world country and you have an organ harvested from, say, a Chinese prison camp, and that kidney meets you up in the Philippines, and you have a this used to be the stuff of science fiction when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It's all sort of part of science fiction, but now with organ transplants, these kinds of things can be arranged on the dark, on the black market.
It's a
So
crazy world.
it is a crazy world, but you give us hope with your activism and the fact that I moving toward action, and that list that you include on the back of every page where you list all of the email addresses. How do you want us to eventually move toward contacting our elected officials on the positive side? What should we do? Will you be giving us a template and sort of showing us how to do that maybe
Um,
next week?
a little bit. I mean, as one area of action, I will at least mention how it's important to contact our elected officials. In Minnesota, during the legislative session, when we're trying to advance pro-life bills or stop harmful bills, we want pro-lifers to contact their state rep and state senator and the governor too, and just voice your position and tell them that this is important and you need to vote this way. That is a meaningful thing that everyone can do. And at the federal level, our members of Congress deal with abortion-related stuff as well, and so it's good to be in the habit of reaching out to them as well, just to voice our opinion and yeah.
Even the ones we disagree with, and we're
Yeah.
not in any way endorsing any political candidates. We're not talking about getting behind certain individuals. We're just advocating education and reaching out to your elected officials. And Paul, one of the things we find is that when we contact elected officials, we're told that we can only contact the ones whose districts we live in. And we know that's not true. How the lobbyists operate, they knock on all the doors right down the
Yeah.
wing in the halls of Congress or here in the Minnesota State Legislature. So we're all encouraged to contact even the ones we disagree with or the ones we know are already on the side of this issue. But thanks. And I mean, is there anything else you'd want to say regarding, um, say, Mother's Day or the way the assault on our language, where they don't want us to use the correct anatomical terminology, or they want to do away with Mother's Day because it's offensive? Some kids
Well,
don't have mommy, or some kids have two mommies, or
yeah.
some kids have three dads. Is there anything you can say about Mother's Day? Because I reminded my mother that if it weren't for me, you wouldn't be celebrating Mother's Day, Mom. So this is all about me. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, Mother's Day will always be Mother's Day to me, and it's an important holiday because moms do so much for us. They sacrifice, they care, and they nurture, and it's just a very important holiday. And of course, we should thank our mothers all the time, not just one
All
day
the
of
time.
the year. Yeah,
Not just one day. Mothers build our civilization, mothers build our communities. So
yeah,
they should be celebrated and venerated. The mothers give life, and they can do something that no man on earth can do, and they should be revered for that
abs
ability.
100%, 100%. They're special.
They are.
Yeah, 100%. Of course, we want fathers are crucial too, and we got Father's Day coming up, and that's great too. Yeah.
It's definitely. And after several decades of watching Hollywood and all the scripts, all the film scripts and TV shows that denigrate parenting and fatherhood on the
Yeah.
cultural war front, that's a
Yeah.
different issue. Well, anything else you want to say in sum, Paul? We're just looking forward to seeing you here. It's
Yeah.
exciting to see a young guy like up on these issues, reaching. You guys are on tour this summer, right? So you're going to be speaking all around Minnesota
Well,
to do.
we have a tour in the fall,
Oh,
uh,
in the fall. Okay.
September, October. We'll be doing presentations around the state. Yep.
Great. So if people
Um,
want to reach out to you and host you in their church, they can go ahead and get to mccl.org and
yeah.
start getting in touch.
Yep. Or even apart from our fall tour, I mean, we can do other presentations like I'm doing next week. So folks can get in touch with us if they'd like to arrange something.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, I don't have anything else to add. I'm just looking forward to next Thursday, and it'll be great.
Yeah, we'll see you then, Paul. And
All right.
thanks so much for your time and keep doing what you're doing.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.